In term 3, we will have a more extensive information night, which will focus on the broader curriculum offering and where you have an opportunity to meet with different departments. More broadly, we understand that in this ever-changing world that we face, the importance of equipping our students with a broad knowledge base will become ever more important, as it will allow your daughters to question appropriately and explore with courage. For MLC, learning extends well beyond the classroom, and as part of your daughter's journey, I cannot emphasise more highly the importance of encouraging your daughters to try novel things out, whether that be subjects, clubs, sports, or music, as we never know what hidden passions may be awakened. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be online tonight as I'm at Marshmead, a capstone experience for MLC students in Year 9 that I'm sure your daughters will be looking forward to already. But I look forward to meeting you in term 3 in person. And I know that Nicole, Annalise, Christine, and of course Kathy are more than capable of answering your queries. If there are any questions that arise from tonight, please don't hesitate to get in contact. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you in term 3.
Thanks so much, Laura. I'm sure she's having an amazing time at Marshmead. I'm now going to introduce Nicole Harris, who is our Head of English. And we're going to have a bit of a conversation of what happens in Year 7 and the pathways in Year 7 within English. So, Nick, thanks for joining us. So, in primary schools, we often speak about literacy and a subject called literacy. Obviously, coming into secondary school, we call it English. So, can you tell us a little bit more about English and what happens in Year 7 English?
Of course. Thank you, Kathy, and good evening, everyone. Year 7 English is designed to support our students as they transition into secondary school. Our program focuses on building strong foundations across reading, writing, speaking and listening, and is taught through the 3 strands: language, literature and literacy.
So, Nick, one of the reasons, we're speaking to you tonight, though, as well, is to find out a little bit about a pathway that might happen for some students that happens within your department, and that's EAL. So what's the difference between English and EAL within the Year 7 context?
It's a good question, Kathy. The short answer is the content is the same. So English and EAL run parallel to each other, covering the same units and skills. The difference is that EAL classes are smaller, with a specialist teacher who focuses more intensively on language acquisition and core English skills.
So, Nick, how do we go about working out who should actually go into EAL classes, or if a student should be included in EAL?
We look carefully at the background information of each individual student, and particularly whether a student has completed some of their schooling in a non-English speaking context. We also use diagnostic data and, where needed, some testing. The aim is simply to place students where they'll best be supported.
And I know one of the questions I often get asked about EAL English stream is, if you're in EAL English in Year 7, are you locked into it forever? And so what does that look like down the path for a student?
Certainly not locked in. What's really important is that from Year 7 up until Year 10, the students can move between EAL and English, and we use our data to follow them carefully along the way at each step. And so we review regularly and always keep the students' confidence and progress front of mind.
Fabulous, thank you. I'm sure that's answered the question for quite a number of families. It seems like an amazing opportunity for those students who have had to learn English as a second language to have a bit of a boost as they come into Year 7, which is amazing. So we often also get asked, well, what happens in a typical English lesson? You know, what's the length of it and what's the frequency of English lessons? A little bit more about that, just whilst we're talking about English.
Sure. So our English lessons are 60 minutes long, and we see students 7 times across the fortnight. And we have a very clear structure for our lessons. So usually there's a short skills focus at the start, followed by a longer main learning activity, and then a quick wrap up or exit activity, so that there's a definite finish as well. So this helps students to understand what they're learning and why.
So, Nick, what's the approach that we take to teaching, to teaching English at MLC at present, and how to support students during the lesson? So, what happens during the lesson?
Yeah, so we use an approach that's called I do, we do, you do, and it's also technically known as the gradual release method. So teachers explicitly model skills, practice them with the class, and then support students as they work independently. And during this time, teachers move around the room to assist and extend students as needed.
Fantastic. I often get asked and have been asked through the questions that have been submitted about what sort of things are they going to do in English across the year? Because as I said, in primary school, it's referred to as literacy. What sort of things are you doing then?
Well, students will study a wide range of texts and do different kinds of tasks. The sorts of texts might be novels, poetry, creative writing, suspense stories, and even projects like podcasts. And all units deliberately build skills in their reading, their writing, speaking, and listening.
I know that one of the things I also hear from parents too is that they always worry about, do we teach spelling and do we teach grammar? Because I know that's something that, as they're coming into secondary school, that parents do worry about. So can you tell me about the approach to those areas?
We very much do teach spelling and grammar. So each week, students have a dedicated literacy lesson targeting spelling, sentence structure, comprehension, and vocabulary. And these lessons are practical and designed to give students tools they can use across all subjects.
Nick, I know that as an English department, you're always working really hard on how we support students in a whole lot of different ways. But one of the things I've heard about is your literacy workshops and how do they work and how do they support students, across a whole lot of different ability levels across the year?
Yeah, well, every English class works with an additional English teacher, and that additional teacher runs small group workshops. And these are based on diagnostic information and focus on areas where students may need extra support. And they're really short sessions of only 20 minutes at a time, maybe 3 in a row across a longer period of time. And sometimes it also involves some team teaching.
That's a fabulous part of the program, Nick, and I think it's a great way of supporting all students who might just need that boost in a certain area as they're coming into secondary school. Again, questions that's often asked coming into Year 7 is, what about reading? Do you still do reading in Year 7? And what sort of reading program do we have? How do we keep that love of literacy going, or maybe spark that love of literacy that might not be there already?
The secret behind our reading program is to help individuals find that joy, what it feels like to read that just right book. So our reading program is designed to foster that love of independent reading, and students work with their teacher librarian to find books that are just right for them. And lessons include reading time, book recommendations, and individual conferencing to support students in their reading journey. And through some goal setting, it is very much a continuum, and hopefully on that individual basis, they do find that joy.
Fabulous, Nick. That's great. So just, I suppose, a little bit back to the EAL pathways and the program at 7. Will being in EAL affect any of senior school pathways, or does it influence any of that? So I think just so that we can be very clear for the parents on what that looks like going forward.
In the early years, we don't concern ourselves too much with that eligibility that far ahead in senior school. We really want to look at what does a student need right now. And so the eligibility into senior school comes a little later. We just want to give the students the support that they need now to help them to grow. But we review placement each year to ensure students are in the best learning environment for their development.
Fabulous. I think that's made it really clear. I think, but it's certainly a great pathway, you know, for our Year 7 students, and a great support, along with those great intervention classes that happen as well, and those support classes, as well as your amazing English team. So what are the priorities in Year 7 English and the priorities for your team, Nick?
Gosh, that's a big question. But ultimately, our priority is to ensure that every student feels supported, known, challenged, and capable of improving regardless of their starting point.
Well, I think we're very lucky to have such an amazing team, Nick. So thank you for answering those questions about the potential pathways and the options in Year 7. I know that you and your team will be at the Curriculum Showcase in Term 3. And if anyone has any questions that haven't been answered by Nick, there's her contact details there. But as I said, at the Curriculum Showcase, Nick definitely and her team will talk about the different novels that they're going to be studying, and will give you a lot more information, in-depth information about what generally happens within the English program. Thank you so much, Nick. I think hopefully we've answered questions there. Now going to move on though into other languages. So I'm now going to introduce Anne-Louise Llewellyn, who is our Head of Languages. Welcome, Anne-Louise.
Bonsoir, Kathy.
I'm not sure if I should be trying to practice any language live on any of these
Thank
productions.
you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Nick. It was really interesting to learn a little bit more about your English program, for sure.
And Lise, we've got an amazing languages program, and I think some great choices and pathways for our incoming Year 7. So why is learning a language so important? So give us the sell about why languages are a great part of life at MLC.
All right, so obviously a wide range of benefits. So first of all, I think it strengthens the literacy skills of the students. Studies have shown as well that it improves memory and brain flexibility. Languages help students understand their own language and how language work in general. And importantly, it builds respect for other cultures and also supports future opportunities for travel, study, and careers. And as a Year 7 student starting my journey learning English, I ended up working in England and now in Australia. So I think lots of our teachers have similar journey, and they love to share that with our students. And we really feel that Year 7 is an ideal time to begin this journey in secondary school.
Thanks, Annalise. And in your video, you talk about the languages carousel. So, and that's about providing some choices for our 7s as they come into the college. So, what languages are available to our Year 7s as they come into the college?
So our Year 7 students can choose between Chinese, Japanese, and French, and they have to study 2 languages in Year 7. And we also offer a partial French immersion program, which is an alternative pathway for students who wish to focus solely on French in a more immersive way.
Fantastic. So you're saying, so in Year 7, they can come in, choose 2 different languages. They may have experience in those or may not, but it's just a really good chance for some exposure to some different languages. And then as I know, they then choose one to go on to in Year 8. That's correct, isn't it?
That's right. So in the carousel, students study 2 languages for the entire year, with 3 periods per cycle for each language. And all languages are taught at the beginner or near beginner level, allowing students to explore and build confidence before making long-term language choices. So in year 8, they will select one of their language to continue until the end of year 10.
Fantastic. So by the end of year 7, what would we expect that a student should be able to do within their language choices, within their 2 language choices?
So we try to have lots of fun in our lesson to build that love for languages. And by the end of year 7, we really want them to be able to speak about themselves, so share some personal information and express some simple opinions in both of their chosen languages. We tend to obviously teach similar topic at the same time in both languages, so they can see the similarities and the differences and reflect on that. And they also develop a strong understanding of the cultures connected to those languages. So our approach is communicative, so we focus first on listening and speaking. And students are exposed to lots of oral languages before moving into reading and writing. And a little bit of grammar, but taught through the context of communicative language. Lessons are interactive, they're engaging, we use lots of games. Similarly to what Nick described, we use the gradual release method, and we do, I do, we do, you do. So we model everything, and then we also have access to some amazing digital tools supporting the learning of students.
Sounds amazing, and Elise, I wish I'd learnt languages like that when I was going into year 7. Some of our parents have asked about if their daughters speak a language fluently already coming into the college, and particularly I've had a number of questions from parents whose daughters speak Chinese fluently. What sort of choices should they be looking at making as they come into the college?
Yeah, it's a good question, Kathy. So our language program in year 7 is a language acquisition program. So if a student is already fluent in spoken and written language, our year 7 Chinese program is probably not for them. It'll be far too easy and they will get bored. However, if they do speak a little bit of Chinese at home or with grandparents but don't write character, they can choose Chinese. We have a pathway for background students to rejoin our language program in year 10, where they have the opportunity to complete VCE 1-2 in year 10, so a year ahead of what you should be doing.
Fantastic. That sounds like a great option for those who are fluent speakers of Chinese, so some good options there. Annalise, we get a lot of questions about our wonderful partial French immersion program, and I know that we get a lot of applications for this program because it is an amazing program. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what parents or students might need to do to make an application to that program, because it is one of our select entry programs?
Yeah, of course. We're very, very proud of this program. So in our partial French immersion program, our students will study French for 6 periods per cycle, and they will also study humanities in French and science in French. So they will do 1 semester of history and 1 semester of geography, but the course will be taught entirely in French, and they follow exactly the same curriculum as history and geography in English, or science in English, but all the content, the material, and obviously the assessment will be in French. So it is a challenging program, but it's a program where students develop their skills really quickly. Okay, they learn, immersion, so they are immersed in the language for a significant part of their studies in year 7 and 8, and they will learn the French the way like a first language speaker learn their language. So it's open to all students, but it is selective. It's a very popular program, so every year we have to make some very hard choices. So we look at lots of information to make sure that we select the right students. students have to submit a separate application, which will come with the language choice form. And we will also look at the data from the general testing, and students have been asked to sit this testing in May for this program. And then we also review the recommendation from the Year 6 teacher. We have a panel of teachers looking at the application, the data from the testing, as well as the recommendation from teachers to ensure that we select the best student. We do feel that students need to be strong academically to enter this program, because it is challenging. It works at quite a fast pace. And it's important that it is the right choice for students as well, because we do ask students to make a commitment to that program for 3 years. So in Year 7 and 8, where they study their humanities and science in French, and in Year 9, where they do an accelerated advanced class in French, preparing them for VCE 1-2 in Year 10.
Thank you so much for that, Annalise. It's a lot of information about the French immersion program, but I think making it really clear that it is an amazing program. It is open to everyone to apply for.
That's
but
right.
There is,
so
but there is,
Sorry,
but
Kathy,
there is a lot of
you do not need to have any background in French to apply for this program. We do have a number of students who have obviously some background in French, who have done some French in their primary school, but we also have some total beginners. So we do support them at the start of their journey, making sure that they have the skill to cope with the day-to-day interaction of lessons. But we look at all students.
Absolutely, Annalise, because I know, obviously one of the challenges of coming into secondary school, secondary school is the transition is one part, and they're learning some subjects that they may not have come across before, such as geography and history. They might have done them as part of what they call integrated studies before. So whilst they're learning new content, they're learning the language alongside it as well. So, once they might master some of the content and the language for a particular topic, say in history, then you start a new topic. And so it's a bit of it is a challenging program, but an amazing program. So as Annalise said, there will be more information that will come to you in your application forms if you would like to apply for the French immersion program. And please ensure that you do fill all of those out. But we do also seek feedback from the Year 6 teachers as well, which is really important. So Annalise, I think you'd answered the question about, obviously, if they do French immersion, you don't study another language.
No, we do use those French classes, the 6 periods allocated for languages for French, to really build those foundation skills for students, so they can cope with the content, the subjects. And
just reiterating about the commitment, so into the French immersion program, it's not just for 1 year. It's not just I think I'll try it. That's why we're very clear on our criteria. We want students to be successful in this program, because the commitment is for 3 years, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
For 3 years.
Yeah, we do turn down a lot of people for this program, so we really want to make sure that students are placed in the right stream.
Yeah, because we want them to succeed in the program too,
That's
Annalise.
right,
But then they've also got the option of our Carousels program, which is still another amazing program that exposes them to 2 languages that they can then have the choice of what they then go on to in Year 8. So I suppose just finishing off with you, Annalise, and that's been some great information. Do students, I suppose, continuing after Year 7, I've talked about then into making a choice between their 2 languages as they go into Year 8. What's the commitment after that?
So in Year 8, students will continue with 1 language, and we will increase the time allocation that they spend on their language study with 5 periods per cycle. And languages are part of our core program of subjects, so students continue to learn the language until the end of Year 10. Currently in Year 9, they have the option to switch the language that they've picked for Spanish if they want to start something new in Year 9. Otherwise, they will continue with the language that they've selected in Year 8.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Annalise. Really appreciate
You're
the
very
information.
welcome. Thank you, Kathy.
And hopefully that's provided some clarity for our parents around the language pathways. There's Annalise's contact details if you've got any further questions. But again, Annalise and her team will be at the Curriculum Showcase night in September, and you can have some further in-depth conversations with them then. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you. We're looking forward to meeting everyone then.
Fabulous, Annalise. All right, the last person we're going to have a conversation with tonight about pathways is Christine Johns, our Director of Learning Diversity. Welcome, Christine.
Thanks, Kathy, and good evening, everybody.
So, Christine, you're the Director of Learning Diversity. So, tell us about what learning diversity is and what does that mean, I suppose, at a secondary school level, because it does look quite different than it does, I think, at a primary school level.
That's true, Kathy. Thanks for the question. So learning diversity in our secondary setting shares many similarities already with a primary school setting and supports students with diverse learning needs. And this includes students with disability, twice exceptional learners, and students with high ability. However, unlike the primary schools where the students typically work with one main classroom teacher, our secondary students engage with multiple subject teachers across the school day. And this means that the support is coordinated across many different learning areas and settings. So our initial support is really to help students to navigate their new, more broader learning environment, help them settle in, get used to MLC, whether it's across the way from the junior school or from all their various primary schools. And all of this is done in conjunction with the mentors and the subject teachers. So it's a great big team effort.
So, Christine, you work with really, I mean, we're talking about, working really with a really diverse group of students across the college and supporting students in a whole lot of different ways. So you've got an amazing department, and Christine does work across the primary and secondary settings, which is, it's an amazing to have her knowledge in that. So I think, Christine, as people have enrolled their daughters into the college, many of them might have already submitted some additional reports. I mean, school reports will have, but there might be additional learning reports, there might be psychology reports, there could be occupational therapy reports, there could be a whole lot of different reports. And I know how important it is that we have all that information before students start at the college. And I suppose a bit of a call out to parents. Probably before, at some stage, you may have submitted those, or you may not have had them. It might be that you've actually got some new reports or some new information that you need to share with us. I just would like to reiterate how important that is for us to have that to support your daughter's transition. So, with me doing a bit of a plug there, Christine, I'm now going to throw to you and just saying, how do we support transition from the primary to secondary school for students who do have identified learning needs?
Okay, yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you to all the parents who have already shared the information that Kathy just spoke about with us. It helps us to really plan for your daughter's arrival and to really be prepared so that we know knowing our students is obviously very, very important to us. But in terms of the transition to the secondary setting, we understand that this can be really challenging for some students. So our learning diversity team works really closely with the mentor teachers. So each student will have a mentor teacher and the classroom teachers, that is the subject teachers, and with our families to ensure that this adjustment is smooth and that there's early and frequent communication between us. So the key message that I'd like to share with our families tonight is that we place really a strong emphasis in this transition from primary to secondary, that we have early communication, that we have open communication, and that we want to understand each student's strengths and really their areas of need, and also respond to all of this with care and compassion during this really, really important transition. Again, I mentioned earlier about it being a team effort, and this is another way in which that is true.
Thank you so much, Christine, for that. And I think one of the questions that obviously will come up from parents is around one of the subjects that's actually offered through your department, and that is language and learning. And this is a subject that is timetabled at the same time as languages. So we heard Annalise speak before about the carousel and the choices, but that may not be for some the best option for some students who have got identified learning needs or disabilities that might have been flagged by parents already or may not have. But there will also be a chance, if you haven't flagged these, to flag that there has been learning interventions on the form that's coming out. So that was all very long-winded from me there, Christine, but tell us about what is the language and learning subject that is offered through your department.
So the language and learning subject, is an invitation-only course offered at years 7 and 8, and it goes on through to year 9 and 10. So the language and learning subject is for students with identified learning needs, including specific learning disabilities. And as Kathy said, it replaces the language studies, and the focus is on literacy skill development across the curriculum. So Nick earlier spoke about what their department does for English. Language and learning looks at literacy across especially in year 7, we incorporate a little bit more science, history, geography, all the core subjects in a small and supportive group environment. Yes, of course, we do work with English as well. It's a very, very tight partnership between us, but the language and learning subject crosses a number of curriculum domains. The students also in the language and learning subject have time for conferencing with their language and learning teacher, and so the students really enjoy the fact that this is a small group setting, but I need to be clear that it's really an invitation-only subject based on students with learning needs, learning disabilities and so forth. So students often will most likely continue into language and learning beyond year 8. There's the support options continue, but there is also, and this is returning back to what Annalise mentioned, there is an option of students moving into a language study, and we do definitely have students who seek the support in year 7 and 8 in language and learning and then move on to study a language. There are other students who continue in the language and learning subject beyond year 7 and 8, and that's completely fine. Basically, the message around this is that it's individualised, it's reviewed, and it's in consultation with our families to make sure that we determine the appropriate supports for the student all along the journey. Sorry, I should have gone. Right, I'm back. Thanks, Kathy.
So, Christine, one of the questions that some parents submitted was, how do I find out if I'm going to go into language and learning, and whether that I'll do that in place of doing two languages at year 7?
So the families will indicate that in the forms that go out, and Kathy, you might want to speak a little bit more about that. However, in terms of students who will enter the language and learning subject, we will liaise with the families more so into term 3 to give your students, your daughters, a little bit more time in their primary schools, and also for us to review the testing, the results that the students completed yesterday. There's another setting later in the year, but we're basically, it's term 3 is the time when we would look at that, and it will be me that's making contact with the families, and it could be another meeting. We could meet online, on Teams, in person, whatever it is. And in summary, it's in term 3.
Fabulous, thank you. What about for those students who are not a part of the language and learning subject, who do languages? How can they be supported within the classroom settings as well? So how does your team work in with the others to do that?
Look, in terms of supporting students who are not in the language and learning program, the majority of our students are really supported through that tier 1 support. So that is through high quality differentiated teaching practice within a full academic program. So our teachers use explicit instruction, use scaffolding and inclusive classroom practices to ensure students can access the learning alongside their peers. The student programs are all regularly reviewed in consultation with our key staff, our students and their families. So in general, yes, it's through the high quality differentiated teaching practice within the classroom setting. The learning diversity staff obviously liaise with the classroom and subject teachers, and it's through that partnership that we seek to support those students.
So Christine, your department also oversees the support or extension of students who may have been identified as having high ability
Yes.
or gifted as well. So you're dealing with a very wide range of students here at the college. So what happens, how does that support happen, or what sort of things do we have available for students who may be identified as highly able or gifted?
Yep. So that's right, Kathy. We do look after a really wide range of student needs. So the Learning Diversity Department also includes enrichment as well as support. So these students all students have access to a wide range of co-curricular enrichment opportunities. So some of those include Brain Bee, coding, linguistics, Da Vinci, the future problem solving and maths competitions. Many of our families would be aware of those competitions. So they also can continue to have access to those. There's opportunities as well for students to sign up to these enrichment opportunities. They're often student-led and they're supported by staff from the Gifted Ed and Talented team. And this is alongside the extension that happens within a regular classroom setting.
Yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity to brag. We've just had some amazing success in a program. Christine,
True.
Would you like to give your amazing program a plug?
So our students in years 7 and 8 just last week participated in the statewide Da Vinci program, and they happened to win the state program and heading to the national finals in a couple of weeks. And our year 5 students just won the Da Vinci as well yesterday. So yes, it's a pretty exciting times for our students and the college.
What amazing opportunities for our students that are provided by your department. So, Christine, I suppose just you've said it a few times, just in general, just in working with learning diversity, what's the best advice for how parents can work in partnership for the school, particularly if they have students who do have a diverse range of learning needs? So what's your advice to them?
The main point that I would like to share with everybody online tonight is really that open communication is absolutely essential, and that is whatever the need is for the student. And we really encourage our families to share insights about their daughter's learning, to celebrate their progress with us, like what I've just mentioned, and to contact us and the college in general, your mentor, the class teachers, if any concerns arise. We don't want families sitting on a concern. We really want them to reach out and for us to be able to work together to problem solve, to celebrate all of those things. And by working together, we can ensure that students feel supported academically, emotionally, and socially throughout their secondary education.
Thank you, Christine. That's such sage advice, particularly as, you know, the move from year 6 to 7, and Laura mentioned it in her introduction, that there's many joys that come with it, but there is also some challenges that come with that too. But I think what you're saying is working in with us, sharing information, or just even if parents have a concern, just a niggle, is to get on the front foot with it is great advice. Yeah. Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you for your presentation tonight. And there's Christine's details if you need to get in contact with her. All right, I'd just like to thank all of our presenters tonight. I'd like to thank all of you who have been online tonight. I can see the numbers have been really, really big, and thank you for taking the interest in what the pathways or options might be ahead for you. So thank you to Laura, Nick, Annalise and Christine. And as I said, if you have any questions, the email addresses were on the slides. We'll be sharing those slides with you in the next couple of days too. So you will receive some correspondence from us, and that will be to fill in a form regarding the pathway choices. So that would be about what languages you would like your daughter to do as part of the carousel, or if you'd like to be considered as part of the French immersion program. The form will also give you an opportunity to indicate if your daughter has received any learning support during her primary school years as well. But you may have already flagged that within the enrolment experience. Obviously from junior school, we have meetings with the staff there who will also flag that as well. We just ask that the language forms are completed by May the 29th, and that really gives us the opportunity to start staffing the areas accordingly, so we can ensure that your daughters get the best access to the programs that they'd like to or need to be part of. So finally, just I've spoken a few times about the curriculum showcase that comes up on Tuesday, September 1st. And that's a great opportunity to get more insights into the wonderful range of subjects available at Year 7, and Laura alluded to that at the beginning of the presentation tonight. So we will give you an overview of all the subjects that are on offer during that time. However, tonight was really about where there was some choice and some pathways, and there may be some different options. So hopefully we've been able to answer a number of your questions tonight, and I really thank you for joining us online. Have a great night, and we really look forward to seeing you on the 1st. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.